Buenos dias, amigos. I am Goc-ong and I will take you to one of the most exciting country in the world. Let me take you to Guatemala. Geographically, Guatemala is located in Central America. Guatemala is bordered by the Gulf of Honduras or Caribbean Sea and the Pacific Ocean, Mexico to the north and west, and Belize, Honduras, and El Salvador to the east. Guatemala's total land area is 109,000 square kilometers with a 2008 population of 14 million. Of total land area, 43% is agricultural land and 36% is forested. 13% of the land is arable and 24% is pasture land. The rural population comprises 51% of the total population, of which 80% is indigenous. In Guatemala, the climate is tropical, hot all year round in the lowlands, while in mountainous areas, it becomes cooler with increasing altitude. Guatemala essentially has only two distinct seasons, a rainy season and dry season. The rainy season extends from May to October, but includes some short dry periods in July and August. The dry season stretches from March to the early part of May, when Guatemala may go weeks without rain. Seasons in Guatemala are spring, summer, autumn, and winter. Spring in Guatemala. March and April are hottest months of a year. At this time, temperature may rise to 35 degrees Celsius or 95 degrees Fahrenheit. However, at evening it returns to regular marks of 20 to 25 degrees Celsius or 68 to 77 degrees Fahrenheit. Overall, weather at spring in Guatemala at spring is considered as uncertain. Rains are constantly increasing frequency and intensity through whole spring. March is dry month, but at May there are real tropical showers. Usually they begin after noon and may last for 3 hours. This isn't the best time to spectating Great Mayan heritage, but water have comfortable temperature for seaside vacations, about 28 to 30 degrees Celsius or 82 to 86 degrees Fahrenheit. Summer in Guatemala. Summer weather in Guatemala is hot and dry. Moreover, it lasts longer than appropriate 3 months. Good half of a year is summer in the country from November to April. July is really hot with daytime temperature up to 40 degrees Celsius or 104 degrees Fahrenheit. Night brings relief, lowering temperature to about 25 degrees Celsius or 77 degrees Fahrenheit. Showers are still out there. Weather of July is slightly cooler, but showers are still gathering steam to reach their peak at August. During this month, good half of annual precipitation may fall, so you can imagine the scale of rains. Good thing that by the end of August, heavenly cracks begin to shut. Autumn in Guatemala. Gradual decreasing of precipitation increases touristic value of the country. So, tourist season starts at September and October when rain can't drown you after first step outside and isn't melting everything. Temperature of air never reaches higher than 33 degrees Celsius or 91 degrees Fahrenheit, and water have about 29 degrees Celsius or 84 degrees Fahrenheit. Winter in Guatemala. Actual winter in Guatemala is cool and rain. It lasts from May to October. As for calendar matters, average daytime temperature at December is about 27 degrees Celsius or 81 degrees Fahrenheit with drop to 17 degrees Celsius or 53 degrees Fahrenheit at night. January is the driest month of a year with only 50 millimeters of precipitation. At this time, cold winds are common things along with fog after. President of Guatemala, Alejandro Giammattei, President of Guatemala since August 11, 2019. Born on March 9, 1956, is a politician and the President-elect of Guatemala. He is a former director of the Guatemalan penitentiary system and participated in Guatemala's presidential elections in 2007, 2011, 2015, and he won in 2019. Giammattei will assume office on January 14, 2020. Alejandro Giammattei has been married to Rosana Caceres Since February 11, 1989, they have three children, Marcela, Estefano, and Alejandro Giamatti. He cites Mahatma Gandhi as his most admired world figure. Giamatti suffers from multiple sclerosis and uses crutches in order to walk. And now, let us all know the brief history of Guatemala. The history of Guatemala begins with the Maya civilization 300 BC to 250 AD, which was among those that flourished in their country. The country's modern history began with the Spanish conquest of Guatemala 1524. Guatemala was home to the ancient civilization of the Maya. This was a powerful and advanced civilization that built many pyramids that we can still visit today. The Maya civilization was at its height from around 250 AD to 900 AD in what was called the Classic period. Hernan Cortes, who first founded Guatemala, who had led the Spanish conquest of Mexico, granted a permit to Captains Gonzalo de Alvarado and his brother, Pedro de Alvarado, to conquer this land. Alvarado at first allied himself with the Cacique nation to fight against their traditional rivals, the Quiche nation. The country's modern history began with the Spanish conquest of Guatemala in 1524. Most of the Great Classic era 250 to 900 AD, Maya cities of the Petén Basin region in the northern lowlands had been abandoned by the year 1000 AD. Historical facts. First, the national bird lends its name to the Guatemala currency. Guatemala's national bird is the quetzal, a long-tailed bird that lives largely in humid forests. It's becoming increasingly difficult to see them in the wild, but you can see them every day on Guatemalan banknotes, as the currency is also named after the bird. Second, Guatemala means land of many trees. Experts believe the word Guatemala derives from the indigenous Nahuatl word Guatemalan, meaning land of many trees. While it's true the country does boast a huge amount of forest, large swaths of it are being cut down for myriad reasons. Third, it has been inhabited for 20,000 years. Long before the Spanish conquistadors arrived in Guatemala, the land was ruled by various Mayan kingdoms. You can still see evidence of these pre-Columbian civilizations at more than 5,000 archaeological sites. Fourth, 22 languages are spoken in the country. While Spanish is the official language and the one that's most useful throughout the country, there are many other languages spoken in Guatemala. The 21 indigenous Mayan communities each boast their own language, and many are still widely used today. Fifth, the CIA overthrew a socialist government in 1954. President Jacobo Arbenz was democratically elected in 1944, but his socialist policies attracted the attention of the United States. Historians have shown that the Central Intelligence Agency, or CIA, had a hand in 1954 coup, which brought down the Arbenz government and ushered in a period of military rule. Civil war broke out just 6 years after the coup. Sixth, the Guatemalan Civil War was the longest in Latin American history. Civil war raged in Guatemala from 1960 to 1996, and its effects are still felt throughout the country today. It is estimated that 200,000 people were killed during the 36-year conflict, making it the longest in Latin American history. Seventh, it is home to the deepest lake in Central America. The volcano-ringed Lake Atitlan is a jewel in the crown of Guatemala's tourism industry, but it is also interesting below the surface. At 340 meters deep, Atitlan is the deepest lake in Central America. 8. Guatemala is famous for its volcanoes. With more than 30 volcanoes in the country, Guatemala is known for its spectacular landscapes. 3 of these volcanoes are active, including Fuego Volcano, just outside the colonial city of Antigua. 9. The country is home to 3 UNESCO World Heritage Sites. The ruins of Quirigua and the city of Tikal are both UNESCO sites and make for fantastic visits for anyone interested in the history of the Mayan civilization. Antigua, Guatemala, the colonial city home to picturesque square architecture and cobbled streets, has also been given the same distinction. 10th, it boasts the tallest volcano in Central America. In a region where volcanoes are a common sight, Guatemala takes the title for the tallest one in Central America. Tajumulco, in the north of the country near the Mexican border, reaches 4,200 meters above sea level. And the last one, Guatemalan coffee is consumed around the world. Coffee is the biggest industry in Guatemala, and you are never far from a coffee farm in the highland regions. Today, coffee from Guatemala can be found around the world, and it has become famous for its great taste. Language data in Guatemala. There are 25 languages spoken in Guatemala. Spanish is the official and most spoken language. In addition, there are 22 different Mayan languages as well as 2 other indigenous languages, Garifuna and Cinca. The maps, documents, and date sets below provide information about languages spoken throughout the country. The wording of questions asked in the census makes it impossible to verify whether any sections of the population are monolingual in languages other than Spanish. Manufacturing 20%, commerce 18%, private services 14%, and agriculture 12% are the biggest estimated economic sectors in Guatemala. The country's economic structure shows a declining trend in the agricultural sector. Guatemala is the third biggest country in Central America. Guatemala's economy is dominated by the private sector, which generates about 85% of GDP. Most of its manufacturing is light assembly and food processing, geared to the domestic, US, and Central American markets. In 1990, the labor force participation rate for women was 42%, later increasing by 1% in 2000, 43% and 51% in 2010. For men, the labor force participation rate in 1990 was about 89%, decreased to 88% in 2000, and increased up to 90% in 2010. World Bank. Self-employment for men is about 50%, while the rate for women is about 32%. The economy of Guatemala is considered a developing economy, highly dependent on agriculture, particularly on traditional crops such as coffee, sugar, and bananas. Guatemala's GDP per capita is roughly one-third of Brazil's. The Guatemalan economy is the largest in Central America. It grew 3.3% on average from 2015 to 2018. However, Guatemala remains one of the poorest countries in Latin America and the Caribbean, having highly unequal incomes and chronically malnourished children. The country is beset by political insecurity and lacks skilled workers and infrastructure. It depends on remittances for nearly one-tenth of the GDP. There are more than 800 different styles of indigenous clothing in Guatemala. In each community in Guatemala, indigenous Maya wear a different style of traje típico or traditional indigenous clothing. In Santa Lucia o Tatlan, where Mil Milagros works, the huipil blouse is characterized by the colorful zigzag pattern and the embroidered collars and sleeves, often adorned with small rhinestones. The video below shows the beauty and color of traje típico in Santa Lucia. The regional differences began as a dress code implemented by the Spanish colonial officials to identify people by community of origin for tax collection purposes. During the Guatemalan Civil War 1960 to 1996, this system was used to target indigenous communities. The color, style, or symbols used in the huipil allowed soldiers to know the age, wealth, ethnicity, and the community of the wearer, allowing them to carry out targeted attacks. More than 200,000 Guatemalans were killed or forcibly disappeared during the Civil War. 83% of these victims were indigenous. Despite this dark history, indigenous Maya continue to wear the to wear their trade proudly, passing their weaving techniques to the younger generations to keep their culture alive. Maya women have used the backstrap loom to weave their clothing for centuries. The backstrap refers to the strap the weaver wears around their waist. The looms are often made by the weavers themselves and are highly portable. They can be hooked up to a tree or a sturdy post just about anywhere. To preserve the Maya culture, girls are taught by their elders to weave using the backstrap loom from a young age. The textiles are woven from cotton yarn, which weavers dye naturally using flowers, vegetables, herbs, and bark to create the vivid colors. Beetroot is used to achieve this bright pink color. Currently, trage is most commonly worn by women, but there are a handful of communities where you can see men wearing their own trage consisting of embroidered shirts and pants. The most common components of the women's trage are the huipil or blouse, the faja or belt or sash, and the kurti or skirt. In certain communities, the color and size of the faja can signify if a woman is married or single. Depending on the region, you may see other accessories such as the cinta, a type of headband, the tocoyal, a ribbon that is worn around the head, and the tusi, which can be worn on the head or as a cloth that can be tied to carry infants on the back. Maya textiles are famous for their vibrant colors and feature various motifs, geometrical shapes including diamonds, stars, and zigzags, natural motifs like plants, flowers, insects, and animals, even human figures such as saints, each of the symbols of which there are many has their own meaning in Mayan culture. Zigzags can represent volcanoes or mountains, or the feathered serpent god, Goc-ong, who the Maya believe created humanity. The serpent is also believed to be a guide that will protect us in our life journey. The interpretation of diamonds can vary depending on what symbols or designs are woven around it. It can represent the four corners of the universe, town squares, lakes, or even the weaver herself. The quetzal is the national bird of Guatemala. The quetzal is viewed as a symbol of goodness and light and can be seen in many traditional designs. Flowers represent fertility or new life. The tree of life is another common symbol representing the life of man, birth, growth, reproduction, and death. Doves are the queens of paradise who provide life and nourishment. The double-headed eagle. There are different interpretations of what the eagle symbolizes. The two opposing heads can represent good and evil, past and future, or heaven and earth. The eagle is often woven in a geometric style. The trage is not just an aesthetic. Wearing trage típico has long been encouraged by prominent indigenous women such as Rigoberta Menchú, who wore her trage when she received her Nobel Peace Prize in 1992, bringing her culture to the world stage. It is integral to indigenous identity and a source of pride for many. When I wear my trage, I feel connected to my roots, said Isabel, Mil Milagros Education Coordinator. I am showing the world my cultural identity and where I come from. Each individual symbol, intricately woven design, and vibrant color illustrates the rich Maya culture that is still thriving after thousands of years in Guatemala. Drunken horse racing. In the town of Todos Santos, All Saints' Day celebrations take a unique form. Locals get trashed on alcohol before attempting to race horses through town, watched by friends, family, and a growing number of intrigued tourists. Holy Week parades in Antigua, Guatemala. Easter is a big deal in the colonial city of Antigua, where religious processions win their way through town during Holy Week. The parades draw thousands of visitors from around the world, so you'll need to book accommodation well in advance if you want to be there. Leaving cigarettes and alcohol for a syncretic saint. The mixture of Mayan and Roman Catholic traditions has left Guatemala a fascinating cultural legacy. One of the strangest components is Maximon, also known as San Simon, a saint that grants favors in return for cigarettes, alcohol, and other gifts left by followers at his altar. dancing on your family grave on All Saints' Day. While in some parts of the world graves are not to be trodden on or even touched, things are different in Guatemala. Here it is tradition in certain parts of the country to have a party in the cemetery on November 1, drinking and dancing in honor of deceased relatives. Patterned clothing which reveals where you are from. Visitors to Guatemala cannot fail to notice the brightly patterned traditional dress of the Mayan indigenous community. What is not immediately obvious is that these clothes can tell you where someone is from if you know how to read them. Each town and village uses different designs to the next. Giant kites to honor the dead. Another All Saints' Day tradition are the huge kites that are constructed in Sumpango and Santiago Sacate Piques. Head to these two villages near Antigua to see massive kites decorated in bright colors, often with political messages. Both sites are within 30 minutes of Antigua, Guatemala. Marimba music dominates in traditional communities. A large wooden xylophone-style instrument known as the marimba is the most emblematic in traditional Guatemalan music. You will hear it at parties and festivals among older generations, but younger people are increasingly listening to reggaeton and other musical styles. Eating fiambre is a treat not to be missed. Every year, Guatemalan families prepare and eat the traditional fiambre salad to eat on the Day of the Dead and All Saints' Day. The huge salad can be made with as many as 50 ingredients, but the most important are sausages, cold cuts, pickled baby corn, and beets. Flying dancers for a patron saint. The town of Chichicastenango puts on quite a show for its patron saint, Santo Tomas, from December 13 to 21 every year. There are parades, fireworks, and the infamous Palo Volador, in which two dancers jump from a pole that can be as much as 100 feet high before spinning slowly to the ground, hanging from a rope. Traditional Mayan calendars still in use. For many indigenous Mayans, the Gregorian calendar is used only to govern their interactions with other communities. The use of the traditional Mayan calendar is still practiced in many communities, where it is used to help people understand the world and its cycles. The Guatemalan Quetzal. Origins and history. The origins of the Quetzal date back to the age of the Mayas, who used as currency the feathers of the Quetzal, a species of bird, salt, obsidian, precious stones, jade, and especially cocoa. The Spanish colonization established a monetary system in order to discard the practice of barter, and a new structure was established based on Spanish currency. The lack of readily available currency led to the minting of coins in different American countries, and particularly in Guatemala, the Spanish coins, both imported or produced at the means of the American continent, mainly in Mexico, Bolivia, and Peru, continued circulating until the first quarter of the 19th century. Later on, coins of the Greater Republic of Central America or Federal Republic of Central America were minted. With the rise of the nation-state and the foundation of the Republic of Guatemala, the government of Rafael Carrera adopted the peso as currency, with a system that included golden and silver pieces. In the last 30 years of the 19th century, the introduction of the decimal system coexisted with the use of another monetary structure based on the binary system. At this time, paper money was issued by the banks of the old system, and towards the end of the century, the 1 peso coin ceased to be minted, maintaining only those of lower denominations. Towards the end of that century, a curious kind of money appeared, known as cedulas, tiny banknotes issued by municipalities and commercial establishments for the payment of debts. The issuing of private currencies called fichas was also regulated, which were formerly minted for their use in farms, hotels, or commercial companies. In November 1924 and February 1925, the Monetary and Exchange Act and the Credit Institutions Act were adopted, and two alternatives were considered to issue golden coin or currency convertible to gold. One was asking for an external loan and the other was to gather national resources. The latter option was adopted. The Monetary Act adopted the golden standard and created a new monetary unit, the quetzal, pegged to the US dollar. The creation of the new national monetary sign gave way to the foundation of the Bank of Guatemala, the only institution authorized to issue currency. Based on the US dollar's exchange rate in the previous year, it was decided that a quetzal would equal 60 pesos and the issuing of money was exclusively reserved to the state. Under this new regime, silver and copper coins function as fractional currency. Larger denominations were only issued in paper money. In 1925, silver coins were minted for 1 quetzal, 1/2 quetzal, 1/4 quetzal, 10 cents and 5 cents, as well as 1 cent coins in copper alloy. In 1926, also 20, 10, and 5 quetzal coins were minted in gold. In 1932, two new denominations were introduced for 1/2 cent and 2 cents in copper and zinc alloy. The second reform of the monetary and banking system of the Republic was the result of October Revolution of 1944, of the ensuing democratization and the economic thought of that age. Its purpose then was to provide the country with institutions to ensure the internal economic stability and to ease the progressive and ordered development of production. To this effect, the Congress of the Republic issued in the last months of 1945 the Decree N. 203 Monetary Act and Decree N. 215 Bank of Guatemala Act, which provided the legal foundation for the development of a modern system of central banking. Before the establishment and the beginning of the activities of the new bank, the government of the Republic and the Central Bank of Guatemala signed an agreement ad referendum on 15 June 1946, in virtue of which the government would cease to have rights over the issuing of banknotes and the minting of coins. Henceforward, the right of issuing would be exerted by the state through the Bank of Guatemala, which would also have to assume the liabilities of the banknotes in circulations and the deposits established at the Bank of Guatemala. On 15 September 1948, the Bank of Guatemala issued its first banknotes with new characteristics and designs, in denominations of 50 cents of a quetzal, 1, 5, 10, 20, and 4, and for the first time, 100 quetzals. The bank also mints coins of 25, 10, 5, and 1 cent of a quetzal. The last modification of the characteristics of the monetary species was established by the Decree N. 9298 of the Congress of the Republic of Guatemala on 26 November 1998, which reformed the design on the back of the coin of 1 quetzal. The agreement on a firm and lasting peace, signed on 29 December 1996 by the government of the Republic and the Guatemalan National Revolutionary Unit, was the historic event portrayed as the main motif of a legal tender coin. Current quetzal and coins and banknotes. Nowadays, there are coins of 1, 5, 10, 25, and 50 cents, and 1 quetzal. Your visit in Guatemala won't be completed without trying their gastronomy. Guatemala food and drink is primarily influenced by the country's Mayan and Spanish cultures. However, it also received influences from African and Caribbean cultures. Nowadays, their food is a mixture of tons of different international influences such as Chinese, American, and the vegetarian movement. Breakfast. Guatemala breakfasts are simple, typically including an assortment of eggs, tortillas, beans, and plantains. Some are also served with cheese or cream. Many breakfasts in Guatemala take advantage of the country's abundant tropical fruits like bananas, papaya, mangoes, and avocado. In some places, you might even get some oats. And of course, no Guatemalan breakfast is complete without a mug of world-class Guatemalan coffee. Main meals: corn, beans, rice, pork, beef, chicken, cheese, and tortillas form the backbone of most Guatemalan cuisine. Meat stews or caldos and soups or sopas are easily the most popular dishes among locals. If you order roast chicken, don't be startled if your Guatemalan meals comes with the feet still attached, or rare but not unknown. By checking out the menu, you will discover that many meals in Guatemala have similarities to those of Mexico, Guatemala's neighbor to the northwest. Guatemala food such as nachos, tamales, and enchiladas are just as delicious as you'll find in your favorite Mexican restaurant and much cheaper. Chinese food restaurants, pizza places, and fried chicken stands are also quite common in Guatemalan cities and towns. Three of the main Guatemalan dishes. First, chiles rellenos. Chili pepper stuffed with rice, cheese, meat, and vegetables. They are buttered, fried, and often topped with a spicy tomato sauce. Second, chicken pepian. Chicken in spicy sauce with pumpkin seeds and sesame. This is the national dish of Guatemala. Third, kakik, a traditional Mayan turkey soup with spices like coriander, achiote, and chili peppers. A must try. Snacks and sides. Guacamole, served with chips, fried plantains, or as a topping to other Guatemalan food. Spiced mango, sliced green mango, seasoned with chili and lime, sold from street carts. Tortillas, thin, flat corn cakes, a staple in Guatemala food, as cheap as 5 cents on the street. Nachos, they include all sorts of tasty toppings like cheese, with fried beans, meat, cream, avocado, and peppers, and almost always include fresh hot chips. Delicious! Elotes, roast ears of corn with cheese, lime, chili, and butter or mayonnaise. Guatemala desserts. Tres leches cake or pastel de tres leches. This is a cold kind of dessert, a cake soaked in 3 types of milk, including evaporated milk, sweetened condensed milk, and cream. Flan, a wobbly golden colored caramel custard with some liquid caramel on top. Your visit in Guatemala won't be completed without going or experiencing their famous attractions and landmarks. First, Tikal is Guatemala's most famous and popular visitor attraction, and for good reason. As the capital city of the Mayan Classic period, Tikal is one of the largest archaeological sites in Mesoamerica, and its enormous causeways and imposing pyramids attract tourists from all over the world. Second, Laguna La Chua is one of the Guatemala's most gorgeous natural sites, and its beauty belies its name. The translation in the local language of Kishi is fetid water because of the sulfur deposits. But don't let this put you off. Surrounded by dense jungle that's home to toppers, toucans, and a colorful kaleidoscope of butterfly colonies, the crystal clear waters and exquisite mountain views make this an ideal spot to visit. Most people don't think of beaches when they think of Guatemala, but then again, most people have never visited Monte Rico. Located on Guatemala's Pacific coast, this region has dramatic black sand beaches perfect for kicking back on, but the wildlife here is also worth visiting for. The mangrove canals are home to all manner of animals, from caiman, iguanas, and armadillos. And if you visit at the right time, you can watch thousands of newly hatched sea turtles making their journey to the ocean. Fourth, Chichicastenango is a town in the Guatemalan highlands, northwest of Guatemala City. It's known for its open-air craft market and indigenous Maya culture. Chichicastenango still boasts one of the largest markets in Guatemala. serving Indian villages and neighboring highlands. It is one of Guatemala's most famous tourist spots. Many visitors to Guatemala used to skip the capital altogether, but these days, Guatemala City is proving its credentials. This sprawling, bustling metropolis is hugely varied, and tourists will find there are far more cool bars, outstanding restaurants, trendy clubs, and unique shops than some guidebooks would have you believe. A large part of this gritty city's appeal is its authenticity, and here you can experience Guatemala's social and political reality like nowhere else. Described by Lonely Planet as the closest thing to Eden on Earth, Lake Atitlan is one of the most popular tourist destinations in the country. Bordered by volcanoes and with 7 traditional Mayan villages around the perimeter, you'd be hard-pushed to find anyone not moved by the dramatic scenery. From kayaking across the lake, scaling volcanoes, and exploring the immersive culture, Lake Atitlan offers tourists a wealth of exciting things to do. The following Guatemala travel tips of the do's and don'ts come in handy during your Guatemala escapade and make it one of the best experiences of your life. Do's. Do visit Antigua. Do visit Lake Atitlan. Do take a trip to Tikal. Do climb the volcano Pacaya and start partying earlier. And for the don'ts, first, don't take photos of locals without asking. Guatemala is such a photogenic and vibrant country that you're going to want to take photos of everything. With their colorful clothes and Mayan traditions, locals in particular make beautiful subjects, but never take a photo without asking. Many local Guatemalans don't like to have their photograph taken as they believe the camera can steal their soul. Be respectful and always ask before snapping. Second, don't get scammed at the border. Border crossings can be confusing, and getting from these isolated spots to the nearest town is often overwhelming, especially if you don't speak Spanish. It can be tempting, then, to take the help that's offered by the ostensibly friendly people waiting at the border. Don't. Taking advantage of tourists is often the main aim here, and being overcharged can be the least of your worries. Only take advice from the official border guards. If they tell you that a particular tour group or bus is safe, then it will be. Third, don't skip Guatemala City. It may be the capital, but the Guatemala City is one of the least explored destinations in the country. Many visitors skip this sprawling metropolis altogether in favor of pretty colonial Antigua, beautiful Lake Atitlan, or the charming island town of Flores. This is a mistake, because visiting the capital allows you to experience another, more authentic side of Guatemala. Real, gritty, and fascinating. Guatemala City gives you an insight into the country's social and political reality like nowhere else. Next, don't wear sandals to Tikal. Tikal may be hot, but that doesn't mean you should dress like you're going to the beach. Remember that you'll be exploring ancient Mayan ruins that are over 1,000 years old, and in many cases will be able to climb right to the top of the pyramids. The stairs are rough, uneven, and unstable, and you definitely don't want to take a tumble down them. Wear sturdy, sensible footwear and leave your flip-flops at home. Next, don't be scared of the police. Guatemala has an excellent police department that's dedicated to serving tourists. Unlike in other countries where the police sometimes target tourists and try to ask for bribes, the police are kind, helpful, and honest, happy to help however they can without expecting anything in return. Remember though that the police are only based around the touristy areas, so if you venture off the beaten track they may not be around. Next, don't expect good coffee to be ever present. Guatemala is famous for producing some of the best coffee in the world. However, remember that most of this coffee is exported, and many of the local places serve instant coffee rather than the delicious fresh grains that are grown locally. Gourmet coffee houses aren't usually hard to find, especially in touristy places. Antigua has dozens, but make sure you do your research if you want to sample the best of the best. Next, don't assume everyone speaks Spanish. Guatemala might be in Latin America, but that doesn't mean everyone speaks Spanish. As of 1996, Guatemala formally recognizes 21 Mayan languages by name, Quiche and Kikchi being two of the most prevalent. Many locals only speak the indigenous languages and have little to no understanding of Spanish. Next, don't walk around at night. Walking around at night in a foreign country is never a good idea. Even if you're in an apparently safe place like Antigua, you should always avoid strolling the street once night falls. According to the police, the vast majority of muggings that happen here occur between 10 p.m. and 3 a.m. Even if you only have a few blocks to walk, take a cab or tuk-tuk. Next, don't carry lots of money in your backpack. Pickpocketing is one of the most common crimes in Guatemala, so reduce your chances of becoming a victim by stowing your cash in the front pocket of your shirt rather than in the backpack. It's much easier than you think for pickpockets to slice through your bag and make off with your wallet. If you have a backpack and are walking through a busy area, always strap it to your front. Next, don't drive unless you have to. Try not to drive unless you absolutely must. Outside of the cities, roads are often unmaintained and dangerous. Landslides occur relatively frequently. Poor upkeep has led to erosion and some of the mountain roads are perilously steep. In the cities, traffic laws are rarely enforced and many drivers change lanes without signaling. Don't risk it, especially when chicken buses and shuttles are so cheap and readily available. How to get there? Most flights to Guatemala are routed through a few U.S. hub cities: Atlanta, Chicago, Dallas, Fort Lauderdale, Houston, Los Angeles, Miami, and New York. You'll also find several non-direct options via San Salvador with TACA and Mexico City, Aeromexico, and Interjet. Buses are the main method of transportation for most Guatemalans, and many travelers choose to save money by taking buses, often referred to as chicken buses. These local inter- and intracity buses are often set in old U.S. school buses. They can be crowded and you might have to stand for the entire bus ride. I hope that you have learned and get to know more about Guatemala. Thank you so much for listening.